This is Division I Rejects. We're your source for everything you need to know about small college football with highlights.
This is what it's all about. You're not seeing these guys on SportsCenter unless it's
Otherwise,
on the top.
Really excited about the direction of the show right now. Division I Rejects.
Hello and welcome to Division I Rejects. I'm your host, Kobe Manzo. I am excited about tonight. It's not very often I get nervous for a lot of these shows. This is definitely the exception. This is D1R 212. We've got two great guests coming on the show tonight, the first of which is Alex Bueno, the quarterback from Michigan Tech that led the Huskies to a big-time victory over what was a top 25 ranked Bemidji State team. We'll see if that shakes up here. We'll talk a lot of D2 football tonight. Later on, we got Trent Grotjan, the quarterback from Weber International, the NAIA team that went down and beat Division I FCS Stetson. A lot of talk on social about, whether or not it really counts as scholarship or not. I don't care. That's a Division I program. That is a big-time win for the boys. And guess what? The Knights, they do not care either. But what we've also got tonight is a big-time announcement from myself and the crew over here at D1 Rejects. That is our first on-site game day show of the 2025 season. Small School Saturday is the rebranded version as you see it here. We are going down to UW River Falls. They take on the Alma Scots this coming Saturday. This is a matchup between not quite a top 25 matchup, according to the preseason rankings, but what you do have are two absolute dudes under center for both of these teams. Carter St. John, the second-team preseason All-American. Caleb Blaha, the first-team preseason All-American. The storylines kind of write themselves with this. Two incredible coaching staffs, programs with tradition. We're excited to release a lot more of that info as we continue along throughout this week in terms of the guests that will be joining us on the show, where we're actually going to be set up, how the fans in person can engage with us. We're going to be inside the stadium live for 2 hours, and we're going to go almost right up until kickoff. So I am incredibly excited about that. On the Division II side of things, I will have some people, some boys that you guys may recognize, Tim and Drew joining me on the D2 side. We had two top 25 teams beaten by unranked foes this week, and potentially, although I'm very good friends with Mike Racy, our good friend over at the MIAA, it might be the downfall of the best conference in Division II. And let me preface that and put an asterisk and let you guys know, this show is going to be full of a lot of overreactions. That's what's fun about week 0. We get to take a very, very, very minute, small sample size and just blow it out of proportion and take it and run with all these narratives. That's what we're here to do tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about these teams. On the NAIA side, you know what? We had a top 5 battle that lives up to the hype. It's not often that happens. Benedictine, Morningside, that is a game we're going to dive into. There are a couple other great ones that Matt Schwarzler will join me later on that I'm really excited to talk about. We also had a potential title contender upset by an unranked team. Again, some big-time moves at the NAIA level and really going on here. And as we get going, again, remember, a lot of overreactions. We have one game, sometimes no games, for some of these teams to go off of. I couldn't be more excited to get this thing going. Still a lot of ball to be played, but I figure let's start things off not with any of that conversation, but with an interview with the man who led the Huskies to that win over Bemidji State, the Michigan Tech quarterback, Alex Bueno. Joining the pod, the man who commandeered the Michigan Tech Huskies to not just an upset, a convincing upset over top 25 ranked Bemidji State on Saturday. Man under center, Alex Bueno. What's up, brother?
Not much, man. Good to finally meet you.
Excited to get you on here. We've had a couple Huskies on the show. Felt like we needed another one after this Saturday. The keys of the car, so to speak, have been handed over to you, my friend, getting this start for the Huskies. You took it for a joyride yesterday. How are we feeling coming off that win at home?
That was a great win. Good to get my first start at home, obviously, with the home crowd and just the knowing practicing there for all these weeks and whatnot. So it felt good to be in that environment in that stadium. So really excited to start the year off like that and get going.
Love that first home start in front of the Michigan Tech faithful. Crazy that first varsity start was against my Lake Orion Dragons way back when, 2019.
Yep.
Outcome on Saturday, a lot better than against the Dragons.
Definitely.
That is awesome, dude. You guys, judging from the score and the way you took care of business, you just sick of overtime games to start the year up there, or what?
Oh yeah, that was definitely mentioned in our locker room. We cannot go into overtime, but definitely for sure.
I love that, dude. Yeah, overtime last year against Bemidji. Then you had that 4 overtime thriller against Mines just a week later. Now, you guys took care of business. You didn't do it right away, though, necessarily. You're down 14-3 in the second quarter. And I know from being around and in close proximity to this program, there's no flinch in Coach Metlack, the staff, and the guys up there. That's obvious. But did it take a few series to settle in? You talk about that first start. And what flipped for the offense right before halftime that got you guys moving the ball down the field?
I think it was just, the first game jitters, getting that out, especially for me, obviously, coming my first start. But we were confident the whole week going in. And like you said, and Coach mentioned it as well, it was just no flinch mentality. Just we knew there was going to be adversity. It's a very good team across from us. So we knew there was going to be adversity going into it. And just keeping our eyes ahead and tunnel vision into what our sight was on and executing the plays and the game plan, no matter what was happening in the game.
Well said. He's got you coached up well there in the coach speak. I like that. Every quarterback needs a little bit of it. And you had talked previously about Coach Met, and you had said that there was no better guy to lead you than him. Why is that? How has he instilled this confidence in you, even before you kind of get endorsed as a starting quarterback, starting to build you up through a couple of those years here? Why is that? How has he built that confidence in you, man?
I think it's his intensity during practice. He's really on me about taking game speed reps and envisioning what it would be like on game day, the field, and not just going through the motion. So it's practice habit with him. He really preaches that all the time with me. And then, like I mentioned before, he's been around the program, played here, was a really good player here, so he knows what it takes to be a great quarterback. So just everything about him, he's just a great leader. Like I said, the coaching that he gives me is very, very straightforward, and he's this to this progression, and if I have any questions, he's really good with answering those questions. So he's just great all around coach, and I couldn't thank him enough for what he's done for me so far.
Every interaction I've had with him has been awesome. Wish we could have stolen him over here to the dark side, I guess, from your perspective. That's not happening, but how do you describe the way that you play and how it fits into his and this offensive scheme up there with the Huskies? Because almost 300 total yards and 3 touchdowns from you alone means that something is working up there in Houghton, dude.
Yeah, it's a good balance and mix between sticking to the plays and progression, 1 to 2 to 3, like I said, but also when plays break down, making a play with my feet, or if it's a Q design run, to make a play with my feet there. So it's just trusting in me that I can go execute the offense, and when stuff hits the fan, that I can go make a play with my feet like I did on Thursday night. So
I like that, dude. The Kyler Murray or the Gliac, what do we think about that?
It's funny. I got the same nickname from the D Zone when I was in high school, so it seems like it's following me a little bit.
It's following you around. That means it's meant to be. Still got a ways to go, but you're starting off hot. Starting off hot, my friend. And, you shout out your defense in the second half. That's got to be a nice surprise for them to hold Bemidji scoreless in the third and the fourth quarter. I imagine, what do people need to know about that side of the ball for you guys? What makes them dangerous, even though there are a lot of new faces leading the charge over there?
Definitely. First, I got to credit that to Coach Thomas as well. The coaching just all around this team is amazing.
Absolutely.
He preaches relentlessness throughout the whole defense, and you could see that coming on the second half on Thursday night, where they make the coaching adjustments at halftime that are necessary, and the defense comes out, adjusts, and then commits to it and holds them out to a scoreless second half. So it's just that being able to adjust on the fly and adapt to what needs to be changed in game, as opposed to what was originally game planned. So just credit to that defense. They came out and played their butts off, tails off, and just getting hats to the football is really cool to see the energy from that side of the ball on Thursday night.
I like that. You obviously get a lot of prep going into week 0, even if there's not a lot of tape on the opponent out there with a lot of new faces all over the place in D2 landscape. Week 1 to week 2, or in this case, week 0 to week 1, is usually where a lot of improvements happen. You guys get another kind of long week, so to speak, of prep time. But the approach to this week, you got a long road trip. Probably feels like a normal game week. I'm assuming you guys got to head out there pretty early. What's the approach this week to that trip looming out to South Dakota Mines?
Yeah, it's just stacking upon what we did on Thursday night and just raising that bar coming in this week. Again, we did some really good things on Thursday night, a lot of stuff that we need to tweak up and that we started to do already. So it's just putting one foot in front of the other and continue to progress. We leave Tuesday morning, so it'll be a long bus trip, but trying to make sure we get stacked to good practices today.
Breeze, of course, being at the front of the conversation. He's had a very great career here, and even before him, there's been some solid quarterbacks come through this program as of late. What was the response and the outreach from those guys after this big win, and then how do you hope to continue to impress them the rest of the year?
Oh, it was great. Like I said, I had mentioned before that they all reached out to me and then congratulated me, and even before the game, Freeze reached out and instilling confidence in me, and he knew that I was a great player in his eyes, and that gave me more confidence, like I said. So it was
Sweet.
sweet, shows the leadership that those guys had in the locker room when they were here, and even continuing on now. So I really appreciate those guys for what they've done for the program and continuing on.
Love that, brother. Love it. Anything else we need to know about this Husky squad heading into 25, man? I feel like we got a really good first glimpse of what the ceiling of this team could be.
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty good first showing for us. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of weapons, so it's going to be tough. We're a very dynamic offense, and the defense being so electric and all over the place. I feel like we have a perfect storm on this team this year. So I got to shout out the O-line that they played their tails off on Thursday night, and I don't think they have enough credit for that. It's past couple of years have been really wishy-washy and flipping people on the low line to other sides and substituting one in and out. So the 5 we got going on right now, they did a really great job on Thursday night. I'm really proud of them for what they did.
Next man up, brother. All the best teams, they live by it. And, that's something you guys are going to live by as well. But that's all I got for you, Alex. I appreciate you, man. Have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, you, man. You have a great rest of your night as well.
See ya. Big shout out to Alex for coming on the show. And now I'm joined by a couple other guys to talk about the D2 look here as we look across the national landscape of D2 football. Had a great week 0. Fellas, excited to have you back. How we feeling today?
Feeling good, man. Pleasure to be back.
Pretty good. Drew, do we have a tendency to have some of the most soft-spoken but best players up there for the Huskies? Alex definitely comes to mind. Darius Willis, off the top of my head, just a little bit ago on the show.
I think a big thing that they preach is being like good men. So that's part of the whole foundation that Coach Metlack has set within the Husky program. So not surprised at all.
Nope, like that a lot. Those guys obviously have a lot of respect for those guys. And fellas, before we get into talking about all of these different games and matchups, we've got our first edition of the Player of the Week selections that we are super excited about this year, boys. We're partnering with the Walter Camp Football Foundation, Gridiron 1880, their marketing arm, to announce these throughout the entire course of the season, presented by Wild Society Nutrition. That's a mouthful. What you need to know is that these guys had themselves incredible weeks. I got to see these first 2 in person. Jack Strand from MSU Moorhead. Let me tell you this, guys. When they came up to the Dome and Northern is up 21-0. Joining the pod, the man who commented. Sitting there on the sideline, and all I can think to myself is, what is going on? This is not how this is supposed to happen. I was obviously overjoyed, excited, because Northern is playing out of their minds right now. I get a text from our good friend Wayne Cavati, who covers D2 football at the national level, and he goes, what is happening? And that was kind of how I felt in the first part of this game. He obviously rebounded. You look at what he was able to come back and do in this one, the stat line, 6 touchdowns through the air, over 300 yards, had the 1 interception, 35 of 48. That level, that consistency at that quantity is very impressive. And then the defensive side, boys, with Mitchell at the linebacker spot, 18 tackles, a sack, 2 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles. I'm not going out of my way to pick guys on the same team here, but I feel like these guys didn't even give me a choice. What was your guys' reaction to these stat lines?
I mean, 6 touchdowns is crazy, man. That's 36 fantasy points right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So,
you got anyone putting up those numbers for you?
Hopefully this season, man. Just had the draft. But, man, whenever you see a stat line like that, and they came back in that game. Northern Michigan came out the gate hot to rally the troops and finish that game strong like that. Left you no choice.
Yeah, I think a part that is definitely going under the radar, obviously, is people might not know that they were on the road for Jack Strand, right? And Northern is starving, would be an understatement for a win. And to be up that, you're going to have to face a team that was going to like really, really, really want to finish this one out. And ultimately, it didn't happen because of guys like Jack Strand and 6 touchdowns, like you said. That's fantasy football numbers. I actually have a draft later tonight, so we'll see. Probably going to end up going Baker Mayfield, to be honest with you, just because.
Okay, that's a homer pick. That is absolutely a homer pick.
But
I like it. I like it. So continuing, though, special teams-wise, got to show some love here. Aiden Battle, 2 for 2 on field goals. He hit one 51 yards, boys. He was 2 for 2 on the PATs as well. But that 51-yarder, I believe that was a yard short of tying the school record. The Ichabods over there at Washburn, they end up winning that one 20-17. That ended up being the difference maker. So shout out to Aiden as we round out our Player of the Week selections. Week 0 Player of the Week, once again, brought to you by Wild Society Nutrition as well as the Walter Camp Football Foundation. So excited to have them be on board with us this year, and we get the conversation started here, fellas, and it's not about any of those guys, but with the quarterback that we just had on the show. And Drew, I'm excited to talk about this one. The Michigan Tech Huskies, Bemidji State, they come into town, a top 25 ranked team, a lot of hype, a lot of buzz around the Beavers, and they ran into a buzzsaw that was the Huskies. Tell me about this Michigan Tech team. What is the ceiling for the Huskies in 2025, Drew?
To be completely honest, obviously this is a little bit of a personal topic for me, being around some of these guys, pretty much all the guys that we're going to talk about a season ago. This was awesome to see. Last year we lost a heartbreaker to Bemidji in overtime, a game that the whole coaching staff, the whole team really felt that they didn't necessarily win. We lost that game, right? It's a weird way that like some football teams talk about it. But let's start off with the man of the hour, AB, Alex Bueno. This is a guy that we talked about on the GLIAC like overall view of it, and I'd said that AB is a dual threat guy. You know, shout out to my guy Alex Freeze, but AB is a little different with his legs, and 293 all-purpose yards would explain that. So I think I'm 1 for 1 on that one. But Alex Bueno balled out. Not only did he come in composed, but he was making plays, like I said, on his legs, through the air. And they were very creative too. If you look at the first touchdown with Nora and the first touchdown with Champney, those are guys that they anticipate being very important pieces of that offense. And Champney is obviously an absolutely great receiver, but they had some trickery getting him involved in the run and the pass. That's just huge for Michigan Tech, right? And then Jake Ruff, I'm sure everyone saw it. You know, you talk about the power of friendship. He's going down, and the offensive line picks him up, and he goes to the end zone, right? And it's just awesome.
That was incredible, by the way. Yeah. And I think the only reason we don't have the video, it was on Flow, so that would have been a tough deal to arrange that. But you're right, man. That was like we need to add an assist stat in the box score for plays like that.
Absolutely, right? And you got guys like myself, Hunter Chambers, texting with you, Kobe, like, oh my, here come the Huskies. Like, here we go. Like, it was awesome to see that, especially, and we've talked about it, they lost a lot of guys, including Chambers, including Freeze, and then all the guys on defense. So let's talk about the guys that we stepped up. My boy Joey Morano had himself a day. 2 sacks on the day. That's great for him, playing the defensive line. And then Porter Zeman, who was one of the guys that was able to step up when Mark Sipple went down this past season, as in last year. He is now elevated, and he's leading the way defensively with 8 tackles, right? And so it's like, not only you add in all that and you're like, wow, this was a great game. Then let's talk about how the fact that they came down from 14-3 and then outscored them 34-3, right? Like, that's a huge win, and it's a great way to get started because, you know, you look at last season, how it ended, a gritty win against Saginaw Valley, and you're like, all right, can we get into the next season and have something else? It's another grit, come from behind win. So the young dogs up in Houghton with a couple old guys like, you know, Champney, it's a really, really good, impressive first win for them. And
young dogs might need to go on a shirt somewhere. I like that a lot. And that's pretty solid. Yes. That's good. You better get a chunk for royalties. And speaking of royalties, we got D2 royalty in the chat. My man Whit from D2Football.com. Shout out to him. James W. also says, Michigan Tech up to number 14 on the Massey ratings. Now, that, of course, is just numbers and algorithmic, but there is a time and place for numbers. Football, very much an analytic game. There are a lot of people that would say that's the most important. Tech number 14 on the Massey. That's got, I don't know what the history is on that. That's got to be a pretty high ranking for those boys, though.
I would assume that with them being 14, that the Massey ratings, because they do percentages based on like, oh, who should win, what percentage they should win, right? Like, I would assume they're the highest of all their teams outside of GV and Ferris, right? So let's just say that if based on the Massey ratings, that Tech were to, you know, run through everybody that's not fair, so they still then they're for sure sitting comfortable at the end of the year.
That's to me what's really interesting, because this is to me, and again, we have this small sample size and we get to extrapolate it and just go everywhere with it. But you look at how Saginaw struggled in week 1, and Davenport, they were kind of on that bus too. You talk about, we're not going to talk too much about the Gannon game, but you're looking at a Michigan Tech team that is really trying to take the next step inside of conference play. And you do that not by beating no shots, not by beating the Wayne States and Roosevelts and Northern Michigans. You got to go out and consistently beat the Saginaw Valleys and the Davenports. You have to start to separate yourself and put yourself in that category of the Ferris and GV. Is that to say they're going to go and sweep the Bulldogs and the Lakers this year? I'd be very surprised. Not saying it's impossible. I'd be surprised if that happens. But this right now, through week 0, it looks like Michigan Tech is head and shoulders above, and they're separating themselves inside of what we have known as the middle part of that conference. But to stay in the GLIAC, let's talk about another team that has been at the top of this conference, has been at the top of the country 3 of the last 4 national championships. Ferris State, fellas, they go and they beat number 10 Pitt State 34-17 at home. This game actually almost got ugly. Ferris State was looking incredibly powerful, and I think the big piece out of this that I thought was very interesting, and the biggest storyline is the quarterback position, as it is in football mostly. Wyatt Bauer, the redshirt freshman, he didn't know he was starting until right before the game, and so we're going to play the clip from the press conference here from Coach Anise and Wyatt.
Effectively, so I was pleased by that.
Wyatt, obviously, your first game, your first taste of real action. Just how were you feeling when you took that first snap?
I was nervous, of course. Kind of just threw me in there, but we prepared all summer and spring just for me to be able to play. So, I felt confident in myself, and it showed tonight.
What do you mean threw you in there? I mean, what does that mean?
You didn't tell me I was starting or anything until the game, like 10 minutes before kickoff.
I never tell anybody who's starting before a game.
I had no idea.
And he's like, you didn't tell me you're starting, or I'm starting, and I'm like, is that a problem? Are you okay? He goes, no, I'm ready. I'm like, all right, well, thank God then. So I didn't know. I always go with a little bit of the flow. I didn't know, I really planned on playing Chase some tonight.
We'll leave it at that from Coach Anise. But, fellas, imagine not even getting the nod until like maybe 10, 15 minutes before kickoff. And I go immediately, I just saw this scrolling through Twitter before we loaded up here. Did you guys see that Belichick did not give any two deep or starters to the broadcast crew for tonight's game?
The old cloak and dagger, man.
That is awesome,
classic
dude.
Belichick move.
That is a Belichick move, dude. I love it. And, talk about this. Wyatt Bauer, this is a guy who is just, for most of us at least, kind of burst onto the scene. The expectation from myself and I think a good amount of others was that Carson Golker would be the guy to take back up the reins. Obviously had that injury last year against Lake Erie and had to sit out the rest of the season. He's back, but he got very limited time at the quarterback spot. We did see him suit up at the H-back, at the tight end. They're going to have him on the field. He's too good of an athlete to leave on the sideline, which I think is important to know about this team. But you see the graphic. We're talking a lot of overreactions on tonight's show. This might be the best Ferris team we've seen. We've seen one game. This is my take. I'm going to tell you why. They got more weapons than they know what to do with on offense. You got guys like Golker that you just have to find a spot on the field because he is too valuable. There are other guys like that in this roster. You can't leave him on the sideline. You retain some key talent from the portal, especially on the O-line. They love to talk about Tim Bob, their duo, the twins on the side of the offensive line that are absolutely punishing defensive lines. That offensive line unit for Ferris is one of the most dangerous in the country. You got a roster full of dudes that know how to win at a very high level. And now this team is going to be compared to all those great teams in the last 5 years that come before them. I know, Drew, you and I kind of talked like the one that comes to mind right away. That Jared Bernhardt team, Caleb Murphy that won the Natty, and then you go back last year's squad that Trinidad headed up with a really stellar defense and defensive secondary. It's high praise, but I really do feel this team, again, 1 week in, has a chance to be the best of the best. They have so much depth and so much key pieces. A lot of ball left to play. Brady Rose, Zach Aaron out of the backfield is another big piece offensively for them. But it's a big deal. What were the impressions? Did you see any of the Ferris game, or what are the impressions early on of the Bulldogs?
Not to call myself a cheapo or anything like that, but Flow Sports is just obviously you got to pay for all that stuff. But no, I was able to keep up with the StatCast and everything like that. The one thing I will say, Kobe, I'm not necessarily like being like, oh, okay, let's see what you got with that take. It's just like this is the conversations that national media has with, is this the best Alabama team, that we've seen, right? Like, this is what it comes to when you are in that mix of like dynasty and like really trying to set the standard of every single season, right? Like every new Chiefs team or every new Patriots team or every new team, it was like, oh, is this the best one? Is this the best one, right? You're going to be compared to not necessarily the rest of the conference, the rest of the nation, but the teams before you as well.
Yeah.
And that's something that Ferris has got to be like, not necessarily like okay with, but expect. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to happen. You got teams like the team that we faced last season with Trinidad, the team I faced at Northwood, that ended up going to the national championship. Like, it's exactly what you're going to expect. And what we can expect is the Bulldogs to be right back in national championship, consideration at the end of the year, looking into the playoffs, because it's become the standard.
Yeah, they absolutely have. Very well said, my friend. And you're being compared to greatness. In this case, greatness is yourself. It's your history, right? And our friend James, he's said it a couple of times. Ferris Harding versus the field. Who do you have? And that certainly would be the case right now in terms of those are two favorites to end up in the championship game. We got a lot of ball left to play, fortunately, for everyone else. But another piece I want to talk about with this Ferris squad, guys, is the fact that this quarterback room, we talk about with a lot of the great teams, their ability to reload, right? And that's something that Ferris has done so well. And not only are they doing it well, they're not supplementing it from the transfer portal. They're not bringing in a ton of D1 bounce backs to lead up under center and lead the charge offensively for this squad. They found this talent homegrown right in their backyard. Gulker, Chambliss, Michigan homegrown talent, really specifically the west side of Michigan. Bauer, he comes in, he fits that same exact mold. So the ability for Anise, when we had him on the show, he talked about recruiting down in Florida and these different pipelines that he has. They've done a great job with homegrown talent. That, to me, is how you take it to the next level. And the last note I have, fellas, is Lake Erie College, beware. That I'm just leave it at that. That's a beast right there, and I know those guys are going to be they're going to be rolling. So let's keep things going though with our game of the week pick for week 0, UTPB. They defeat what is either the 3rd or the 5th, depending on the poll that you look at, Central Oklahoma in a 34-14 upset win. Coach McCullough and company, they showed up and they showed out. Tim, the question for you is, from the UCO side of things, is there any panic for UCO with Pitt State coming to town this week, or can the Bronchos bounce back?
Dude, this was killer for me, man. I had them winning the MIAA. We said that in the last show last week, and seeing this upset, I was a bit surprised. But UTPB, we got to give them their flowers, man. They really played a really good game. No turnovers. They created turnovers. They held the ball for 37 minutes time of possession, which was huge. They didn't allow Central Oklahoma to get streaky, and then they also, transition on the special teams as well. Angel Diaz had 4 field goals. So you always love to see that. But a huge thing that happened in this game was that it got moved from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. because there were some storms down there in Texas. And, when you change from a night game to a day game, especially with that weather, heat plays a massive factor. So I don't think the cards were right here for Central Oklahoma. I think they got punched in the mouth, and, it happens. It happens. They got to let this game go, though. Is it panic mode? I'm going to say no, but I think next week with Pitt State coming down there, I think it's a must win just because they have a 3-game stretch gauntlet of Northwestern Missouri, Central Missouri, and Fort Hays in two weeks, starting 2 weeks from now. So they need a big bounce back game from Jet Huff. They need to get that momentum back. They just got to throw that game out the window, watch the film, learn from it, and move on. It just happens.
Yeah, I like that. You talk about the moving of a start time there and the heat down in Texas. Listening, they had Coach McCullough on Inside D2 Football last night. He's celebrating one of the touchdown boys. He cramps up celebrating one of the touchdowns for the Falcons. You got your head coach on the sideline probably putting down like some pickle juice or I don't know. What are the other good remedies?
I hated pickle juice, to be honest with you. Like I remember in senior year in high school, we're playing Bloomfield Hills. And I was running the ball really, really well. And they're like, hey, I started to cramp. They give me these pickle juice. I spit it right out. I'm like, I'm not drinking that. I hate pickles. I will stand on it. I think gross. I actually saw a pickle in a package, and it was flavored Warheads. And I was
That's big time. That's big time.
I was like, who comes up with this shit? I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen because it's a Warhead, but I know it's a pickle at the same time. Like, no thanks.
That is hilarious. We'll keep things moving here, going down the stretch, and we had another kind of top-ranked game, fellas, that turned out to be a lot more one-sided than I think a lot of us anticipated. West Florida was a team coming into this season that had all the hype in the world. They had the hype train going for them for good reason. This is an upstart program in the grand scheme of things that has immersed themselves at the national level and burst onto the national conversation. They continue that stretch. They dominate. Top 15, Lenore Ryan, 48-21, boys. West Florida takes care of business. And now you're looking at the quarterback spot for this West Florida team. Marcus Stokes, what's holding him back from being the top quarterback in the country, if anything? And when I look and I watched some of the highlights, and again, you can get on me for not watching film. I'm not sitting here with the clicker. I'm not John Gruden. I watched the highlights of some of these games. I watched the highlights of this one's, boys, and I saw a couple things from Stokes that I thought were worth mentioning. The first of which is his composure. It felt like, especially early on, they had a couple screen passes mixed in for him, and there were a few times that he's kind of going into the back pedal, a deep drop back pedal. He's got rushers right in his face. He's delivering on the money, pretty precise, big-time throws there. The other one is that he's incredibly bold. He's unafraid to take the big shot, and I think inside of Coach Noble's system, that's kind of a given. I wouldn't go as far as to say that he is a gambler of any kind or he's just whipping it all over the field, but he has the arm strength to go with this very confident build, and he certainly can sling it downfield, and that brings me into the third point. Raw talent. The arm talent on Stokes is through the roof. He might have one of the best, if not the best, in D2 football, in small school football. We've seen a string of that at West Florida. You look back to Pee Wee Jarrett very recently, a guy who had a lot of arm talent there, but also with his feet. I was very impressed by what he did with his legs versus the Bears. They had a couple designed little trickery pieces, a couple not designed scrambles, kind of make it on the move type of deal. And this game could have gotten even worse. UWF, they were up 31-0 right before halftime. Last second Bears touchdown kind of flipped the script a little bit. But to me, fellas, Marcus Stokes, inside of this offense, once again, from Coach Nobles, who we've been fortunate enough to have on the show, look at him right now to be at the front of the conversation with a guy like we talked about earlier in Strand for the Harlan Hill conversation. He's a guy that's going to put up numbers every week, and I'm really excited to follow this team along throughout the rest of the year. The Argos defense certainly stepping up as well. 6 sacks, many more TFLs on the day to go with 2 forced fumbles, putting the offense in a lot of great places. And, you know, I'll leave it off on this. You talk about all those good things with Stokes. What can he improve on? To me, it's just experience. He needs a larger sample size, and he's going to get that. He's going to get that throughout the course of the season. He's obviously the guy down there in Pensacola. So pumped to see Stokes continue to elevate his game, and with that, the game of the Argos, fellas. But let's move over. We had another interconference type matchup here. Lone Star taking on MIAA, number 12 Angelo State. They handle number 20 Fort Hays State on the road, 28-7. A pretty convincing win for this Angelo State squad. And what stuck out to me was that the defense has been the calling card of this Angelo State team in recent history. But it was the offense that really, I thought, stepped up to the plate. Now, 7 points. The defense very much still playing a good brand of football there. But, Tim, the defense for Angelo State, it's kept them in a lot of tight games. Could their offense be the reason they're once again a contender for the Lone Star Conference title in 2025?
Yeah, man, I think that they're either going to be the reason they're a contender or they're going to be a pretender, man. I really believe that defense wins championships, not just games, but championships. And going on the road against a ranked team like Fort Hays and nearly shutting them out is massive momentum to start the season. And they have a pretty favorable schedule, in my opinion, going through. But the Rams defense limited the Tigers to just 268 total yards. Marcus Brown led the team with 13 total tackles and an interception. So they look good. The offense looked good. But, you know, the defense looked good. But the offense, I think they just need to not make any mistakes. They gave up 4 sacks in this game. Braden Fuller threw an interception. I don't think the offense really played to their full potential, and they still threw for 3 TDs, had almost 200 yards on the ground, and they had 28 points. So I think going forward, they just need to just play their game. Don't do too much. This defense is going to keep them in a lot of games, or just convincing in a lot of games and winning in a lot of games. So they just got to not make mistakes and just play conservative ball. And they have a really good quarterback, Harlan Hill finalist last year. This team's going to be really good down the stretch. So keep an eye on them.
They're going to go as far as that offense takes them, right? They got the keys to the car at this point. And I heard a great quote from one of the D2 coaches that we had a meeting with recently, and he said, to your point, defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. Yeah. The best teams do both. And obviously the defense is maybe a little bit more important on his mind. But I like that. I thought that was kind of interesting and fun. But that's another conversation we're going to have in a little bit here in terms of the MIAA conversation. We're going to get to that in a minute. You'll notice we go through not the best outcomes for these MIAA squads, but we're going to kind of stick on that same track. Unfortunately, number 4, Minnesota State, they dominate at home, 38-14 over a Northwest Missouri State team that is trying to get back. You talked about comparing greatness earlier, Drew. I think that was a good piece that you had said. And Northwest Missouri State, very much a victim to that, almost as much as Ferris State has been in the past. And Northwest, a little bit more removed from their championship days. They struggled against Minnesota State. And you look at that game, is there anyone that can out-tough this Mankato team heading into conference play, Drew? They looked pretty incredible.
Yeah, to be honest with you, right? Like, it looked like it was a very, it's just one of those games that we've all been there, right? Where it's like you go in hot, expecting really good expectations, and then snowball.
Yep.
And the snowball just gets so big that you're just like, what the hell just happened, right? Like, it's one of those, just like, you blink and you're down 35-0. I'm sure it was a couple of blinks, but at the end of the day, they were down 35-0. Yeah. And let's talk about the guys that really, not necessarily put the team on their back, because if you're up 35-0, the whole team seems to be doing something right.
Yes.
But offensively speaking, Sam Backer, not the position, the player, rushed for 116 yards and 2 scores. Great on the ground there. But then let's also talk about another guy who was rushing on the ground, Mitchell Thompson, the quarterback, 99 on the ground. Then he had 177 through the air, right? Kobe, we talked about preseason, like, when sometimes your best playmaker is also the quarterback that also allows you to run the ball and have this stuff, you want to keep it in his hands. Clearly they were doing that, right? To where it's like, boom, we were able to keep this in our hands, 99 on the ground, 177 through the air. And Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow got a really good connection. Well, Trayshawn Watson caught 155 of those yards of the 177.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not saying they're on that level. Nobody's on really that level, but like,
I'll tell you this, though. If there's a guy you're going to give that comp to, Watson is the correct guy for that comparison. He is a dog.
Yeah. So I think when it comes down to it, right, and like defensively, this is one of those, right? If you're going up 35-0, this is a team defensive win, but the guy that led the way defensively was Mizell Williams. He had 5 tackles, but it was a full stat sheet of like 5, 5, 4, 5, 4, right?
Yep.
Like it was a full defensive unit, bringing it to the table, taking your shoes after because they just beat the shit out of you. So it happens.
That's good. I like that, dude. Yeah, and you look ahead to the Northern Sun play for this Minnesota State team. You look around the conference, you saw what happened to Bemidji at Tech. That was certainly going to be one of those contenders, although they do not play Bemidji, I believe, inside of the regular season this year. Augustana, though, you look at them, they kind of eked out a win. It was a quality game and against a quality opponent, but Minnesota State very much seeming at the forefront, of this Northern Sun Conference. Now, there are a couple of the teams in quote-unquote middle of the conference, teams like, a Sioux Falls or a Winona, or what can a Duluth do, those kind of deals. Still a lot to be said. Right now, though, can anyone out-tough Mankato? That should be the question going into conference play. For those guys over there, our Minnesota and otherwise friends. And, fellas, we put out a graphic before game day, and it showed what, in my eyes, were some of the best matchups leading up into week 0, whether that was Thursday or Saturday or whatever day we had going on. This is the post we put out, the best matchups. We had Pitt State and Ferris, Northwest Minnesota State, Angelo State, Fort Hays, and, of course, Central Missouri Delta that we'll talk about a little bit. And what you notice about the graphic here is that every game features an MIAA team. I did not notice this, by the way, until after it was posted, and I believe someone commented. That was just me kind of brain farting, and I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened to be some of the best games this weekend. What you also notice is that, boys, every one of those MIAA teams bit the bullet. They did not come out on top this weekend, and so now you look at a conference that I've talked about ad nauseum this off-season being the best in D2 football because of, one, the top tier of the conference, and also the depth from top to bottom. I really felt strongly, and still really do feel strongly, this is one of the, if not the best conference in D2, but all 4 of the ranked MIAA teams from the preseason top 25, they come back with L's after this weekend, boys. Do we overreact and take them off the top spot, or do they have a little bit of wiggle room?
I'm gonna first start off. I was always a little biased and was always gonna say the GLIAC, right?
There you
But
go.
that's just me being biased. That's me being a guy that played in the GLIAC. But no, I mean, similar to like the SEC kind of struggled this past weekend in Division One, right? Like it's still the SEC,
Sure.
right? Like nobody's like, yeah, there's gonna be a guy like Paul Feinbaum or someone like that over, completely having just like the boldest take and stuff like that now. But like Kobe, I don't think that you like the MIAA should be like, oh well, they're no longer in that category. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I still think that at the end of the day, the part that shows best conference is at the end when you got teams in the playoffs and who's beating
Playoff
who,
picture,
right?
absolutely.
Week one's kind of like okay, let's see where we're at. But week one's not a like, oh, this team lost, it's over. In the same way that we talked about how Central Oklahoma, yeah, that they lost, right? You don't look
Yes.
at that and you go, oh, season's over, right? Like if you did, then there's going to be a lot of teams that lose this next week in the NFL, a lot of teams that lost this past week, and that you're just going to punt the season after one game. I don't think that, not from a team and then from a conference standpoint, I don't think that's
Sure.
the case too. So I don't think you're
Sure.
necessarily being like, oh, is it just over? No, they're still right up there. It's just a rough week for them.
Yep. Absolutely agree with that. And I'll pose the question again. I guess I'll start with Tim. If it isn't the MIAA, let's say hypothetically, what is the conference next in line that holds that throne as of right now? And again, based off of just the sample size that we saw in week 0, throw history out the window.
I'm going to shout out the Gulf South, man. 4 teams, all ranked, all in the top 25 after week 0, man. No other conference can say that. Not a huge sample size of teams, but quality teams right now. All 4 teams ranked going into week 1. So got to go Gulf South, man. I'm going to shout out my boys down there.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you there. And again, the only thing holding them back is the depth. There's just not a lot of teams in that conference. Of course, we dropped the news semi-recently that West Florida potentially looking to make the move up to the Division I level. And with that, who knows what happens? You imagine there's some type of annexing from whether it's Lone Star or SAC, Conference Carolinas kind of newly initiated, who already poached some of those Gulf South teams. So the Gulf South very much, their future is in limbo. What they have right now, though, the present, is pretty damn good football. Those teams, like you said, West Alabama, Valdosta State, both picking up wins in the Week 0 Labor Day Classic down there in Birmingham, Alabama. Delta State with the upset win over Central Missouri. And then you look, of course, at West Florida, and we talked about how dominant they were. And, fellas, we'll continue this thing going, talking about some other games around the country. We check in with some scores around the nation. And starting things off, we had UIndy taking down Marion, a top 25 NAIA program. They did it in good fashion, 45-21 in a crosstown rivalry that just got picked up pretty recently. Both those teams centered around Indianapolis. Northeastern State, we talked about the GLIAC a little bit. They don't care for your GLIAC take, Drew. They knocked off SVSU in an upset win. SAG was receiving votes in the national poll. That is not the start to the season that Coach Brady and company envisioned at home against a Northeastern State team that, let's be honest, has struggled a lot in recent history. Coach Chev down there, he's got them boys in the right direction, rowing in the same direction. We continued on the list in the PSAC, Edinburgh with a shocker at East Stroudsburg.
Kobe,
go ahead.
Kobe. If SAG loses, that's fine. I don't really.
Yep. The defense, I think, is probably the most notable piece. You basically ripped up that defense, and now you're left with trying to fill in some big pieces.
Yeah, there was a couple guys that left. Gordon left. Who's the linebacker that we've talked about on this show before?
At Oklahoma State, was it Rawlings?
Yes, and then also the one he was just on the Bucks practice squad. I can't believe I'm drawing on his name.
You're talking about Kretzinger. Micah Kretzinger.
Yes, Micah. Thank you. Yeah, SAG's obviously going to have to replace those guys, right? My cousin, Cracchiolo, Evans is the offensive tackle, Connor. So, yeah, they're going to have to replace some guys, right? So, but, as a Northwood guy and even a Tech guy, there's a little bit of rivalry there. No tears were shed when I found out that the Cardinals took an L.
I like that. We will have another Axe Bowl in 25, correct?
Yeah, I believe there's an Axe Bowl is coming up, not this week, but next week.
I think you're right. But we'll keep going. Down into the PSEC, Edinburgh with a shocker at East Stroudsburg. Drew, you and I were high on this team out of the PSEC.
This one hurts me. I'm not going to lie.
I was going to say, we were very high on this squad. We had Sean McTaggart on the program, the quarterback there for the Warriors. Edinburgh, they scored on the opening drive, never gave up the lead throughout the entirety of the contest. 29-14, they take that one. Then you go into another little cross-conference action, MIAA over to Northern Sun, Nebraska Kearney. They beat Wayne State College, not university for your GLIAC folks, with a late score over. That's an in-state opponent for them, both in Nebraska but different conferences. And then you go down to a game that I didn't expect to be talking about. New Mexico Highlands. They surged to win over Eastern New Mexico behind 3 touchdowns, 200-plus yards from freshman running back Jeffrey Jones. Also, Drew, you'll recognize this name, GVSU transfer Udengwu, at quarterback for Highlands means that's a top-tier offensive backfield in all of D2 football. If Jones can pan out to be a running back that puts up numbers like that, we've seen what Udengwu has been capable of at GV. Obviously, a little more competition in that room, so he got out of town. But you got to go down the list here. Western Colorado, they hold on at home over West Texas A&M. Drew Nash, have a day. 5 touchdowns in that game, 3 in the air, 2 on the ground for the Mountaineers. Unfortunately, one of those passing touchdowns was not to wide receiver Victory David from our all-name team. That's one of the guys suiting up on the outside for Western Colorado. That's all-timer.
That's a good name.
That's a great name.
That's pretty good. But those are the ones that kind of jumped out to me, fellas. We'll close out the D2 portion of the conversation, taking a look at the newly posted D2Football.com top 25 poll that has been released here. As we pull this up, boys, anything jump out right away? The top kind of little bit here stays mostly intact. Of course, Central Oklahoma, the biggest fall out of all these teams, but the top upper echelon of these rankings kind of staying intact.
Scroll down a little bit, Kobe, just to see. Wow, really? Okay.
Central Oklahoma drops 14 spots. They were the biggest drop, followed by Lenore-Rhine down from 14 all the way to 20. Had a couple teams rise up. West Florida cracks the top 10 now at number 8, moving up 3 spots. A lot of teams moving up or down 3. Valdosta moves up from number 17 to 14, and you had a couple other pieces here and there. Virginia Union gets a bump. We didn't talk about their incredible game against Miles. They blew the doors off of that Miles team. They go up 2 spots. And then we got a couple new teams in the rankings. UTPB makes their way from unranked to number 16 in the rankings, boys. And then you have Central Washington and Delta State at 23 and 24, respectively, after both picking up some big-time wins in week 0.
Is there receiving votes? Sorry, Tim.
You got it.
I would have to look. I don't see anything about receiving votes right now.
Okay.
I'm really interested to see if UTPB can keep this up throughout the whole season.
Sure.
I mean, they're right now a top 20 team. They were unranked. No one's radar to start the season, which I think they love that. I really do. And so I want to see if they can keep that momentum up. And I think West Florida, man, I think they're just going to keep climbing. That team looked really, really good. I think that's a top 5 team, I think, honestly.
I like that. D2Football.com certainly agrees. And Stokes and company down there, the offense, they are rolling. They are a buzzsaw. They are a gauntlet right now and a team that not a lot of people want to run into. You talked about the top level of that Gulf South. Those matchups that don't come until later in the season with the West Alabamas, the Delta States, the Valdosta, those are going to be must-see TV, unless you're Drew. You don't have Flo. But those will definitely be big games to watch. But I think that kind of wraps up most of our conversation on a lot of these deals, fellas. Anything else jump out from week 0?
Not much, man. This was great. Can't wait for next week. A lot more matchups.
Yes.
Kobe,
thank you guys very much. Go ahead, Drew.
Kobe, I got one.
Tonight, and then I didn't.
Little friendly wager on the Northwood Northern game. We're both alums.
All right, what do you have in mind? And let me put this on the record that this is not proposed before hitting the go live button.
Hey, I will think of something. I just need to get this in, where it's like, all right, but I'll think of something.
Yeah. No, if that's like wear something on the show or a shout out on social or something, I'm game. I'm game. We put something together.
All right. I mean, I know we got this one in the bag.
Okay.
Hey, repping the boys, baby. Gotta let them know.
Yeah.
Coach B's got this one.
Let's get you a new hat and a new flag.
Oh, we're one.
Let's get you a Lake Orion hat and then a Cats flag.
We're 1-0 right here too. We ain't got to worry about that.
Hey, that's Coach Carpenter to you. I love it. Thank you, boys, very much. I appreciate the both of you as we wrap this thing up. And we keep the live stream going here on YouTube. We're going to move over now. And before we transition over to NAIA football discussion, let's cut to our interview with the quarterback from Weber International, the team that went down and beat Stetson, an FCS opponent. And really excited for this one. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got the interview coming up now, and then Matt Schwarzler will join us on the other side, and we'll get through and talk through the rest of NAIA Week 0. Let's keep this thing moving. Join the show tonight, the quarterback at NAIA Weber International in Florida. His Warriors, they just went on the road, upset FCS Stetson in their own building. Trent Grotjan, what's going on, brother? Excited to get you on this show, and believe you're the first Warrior on the pod. So that's a cool deal. Taking us too long. I say it every time we get a new team on here. That's on me, not on you, but excited to have you tonight, brother. Thanks for joining me.
Appreciate you having me. Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, dude. 10th NAIA team to take down an FCS opponent. A scholarship or not, win is a win. Is a win is a win. You go down that list right there. But even if it took a few delays to get there, it sounds like, walk me through just the general delay and finally getting to the game last night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was, I mean, we had our long bus ride. It was, I don't know, 2.5 hours in total, something like that. And we get there, we're locked in, we're about ready to go out on the field, start warming up, and boom, everybody go inside. And we're inside for at least 2 hours. And we supposed to kick off at 6. We didn't kick off till almost 8 p.m. So that was hard to, that was some adversity we had to overcome. We were locked in, we were ready to go, and then we had to wait 2 hours. That was difficult, but we got it. And then at 10 p.m. it happened again. The lights went out, another delay happened, but we made it through.
100%. What was the end time for that one last night? I saw the picture of you and the boys out on the field under the scoreboard. When was that taken? When did you guys finally wrap this thing up?
Oh man, what was it? It had to be it was 11:15 somewhere.
I got the alert late.
Yeah, it was late. I mean, I didn't check my phone till midnight on the bus at least. So yeah.
That is awesome. Talk to me about the defense, right? We'll talk about you and the offense here a little bit, but pick 6, scoop and score, forced turnovers, 4th down stops. I mean, across the board, these guys were playing out of their mind, it seems like, and I got to tune in to a bit of it as I started to see that this was unraveling, but looking down the box score, your defense was playing unreal. Talk to me about their performance yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. They all played on all cylinders last night. They played so good. I mean, the chemistry they had together yesterday, I mean, we were out one starter, or at least one starter, plus another one Caden Morrell, the kid who got the scoop and score. He had a little back injury before the game, but, he did his duties and then he got out. But
I like that. I like the phrasing of that. It's good. Yep.
But yeah, no, defense played so good yesterday. All my friends got so many tackles. I mean, we had a new kid who came in. We had several new guys actually make some great plays.
Okay.
It was nails across the board. I loved it. Obviously, we had that one fluke play at the beginning. I'll say it was a little push off. I might be biased, but to me, it was like a little push off. But you're gonna have those plays. But otherwise, they were locked down. It was awesome.
No, I love that. And usually we're not sitting here having this conversation about this kind of magnitude of upset when a team gets outgained. In some ways, your offense, you did make it happen, though. You're outgained almost 200 yards on offense, but you get inside the red zone when it counted, 3 for 3, you guys getting down that part of the field with the scoring opportunities. How do you feel like you and the boys got down there to take care of that, and how do you take that offense to the next level when you get in 20-yard line and in?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we actually have done a very good job. Obviously, this year we started it nice, this game, but 2 years prior, 2 years in a row, we've done very well at scoring in the red zone. I think we've been top 3 or top 5 both years, and when we get in the red zone, we put points on the board. So we've been pretty consistent with that. We want to continue to be consistent with that, keep scoring in the red zone when we're down there. We want every point we can get. So but I like
that. I know a lot of teams do like the sudden change type deal. You stop practice and you maybe get a little set of ones-on-ones for a series, something along those lines. Did it feel like sudden change the entire night?
It kind of did. It definitely.
I mean, you go lightning delay, and then you've got maybe you guys get off from a series and maybe don't convert, and you come off, and now defense picks this thing off or punches the ball out, and you're like, okay, strap it up, here we go again.
Right back on. Yeah, it kept happening, and I mean, defense was on the field for a lot of the game because they did make some great plays, but we had each other's back. It was awesome. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot, dude. And, you guys bring it back home this week. You got a talented Campbellsville team coming to town. How do you prepare for what really is a borderline playoff team, a 9-2 team a year ago, a team that just picked up, I'm sure you saw a quality win over St. Francis squad. They're coming into town trying to take you guys off that throne and vice versa. This is going to be a great matchup this weekend. How do you prepare for that squad?
Yeah, I think we keep doing what we do, and we need to be even more just persistent with how we coach the guys. I mean, as a leader of the team, I like to be in front of everybody, and I think that's something that I need to do a little better even. I've done, somewhat of a good job, and I think I need to step that up a little bit. Maybe all of our leadership needs to step up a little bit, and I think that's really going to take us to the next level.
100%. Staying on that note, you're a state champion in high school. I want to know from your eyes, what are some of the traits of this squad right now, this Warriors team, that makes you confident you guys are trending in the right direction with a lot of winning habits?
Oh, I see a lot of specific relating trends from my senior year. We have some depth. We're very athletic, and we have depth at pretty much every position. That helps a lot. We're not worried too much about injuries as much. We can give people blows. Just everybody gets a playoff here and there, and it really works for us pretty well. And we are working our way to the player-led type of team.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's really what is going to get us there.
That's the goal, right? The biggest coach speak in the world usually is like week 1 to week 2, you make the biggest improvement. In this case, it's 0, but no one ever says that. That's always true from a coaching perspective. Is that the same, you think, from mindset-wise, from a quarterback perspective, that the biggest improvement is after that first performance?
I think yes, to a degree. From my perspective, I think it helps to get into a rhythm a little bit.
Sure.
Throughout the season, but obviously we started off good, so who knows? That might be all we need.
Yeah, man, 100%. And you talk about depth a lot, and it's not just your team. It's, the whole Sun Conference. It feels like it's just loaded across the board right now. And people, of course, have been high on the Kaiser and the St. Thomas of the world, but you start to look at this conference. There's a couple teams, you guys, of course, being at the forefront of the conversation now, that have forced yourself into that conversation, playing the way that you have. You've played those teams that I mentioned very tough in years past. You go back and look at the way you guys have competed against the top part of the conference. How do you feel this conference stacks up against the rest in the country? And then how do you and the boys take the next step of your goals at a conference title, dude?
I mean, I might be biased, but Sun Conference got to be the best in the country. I mean,
there you go.
It's good. It's good. It's the best competition. And I love playing them. I look forward to those games every year. And I know it's going to be a good game, just like last year.
Yep.
I think we came in as underdogs, and we showed them we could play with them. So
100%.
I'm excited again this year.
Confidence level in that building, I'm sure, is not egregiously over the top. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
what do you say?
Absolutely.
Not cocky, right? But the confidence level in that building got to be strong, right?
Yes, 100%. We're happy. We are not satisfied. We're happy, but
love that.
Not satisfied. Yeah.
Love that, brother. Sweet. Night game. That's a real deal night game.
Oh, it was fun. It was a nail biter too. I mean, it was very similar to last year's St. Thomas game when it came down to 2 minutes left and we're leading. I was worried. Let's see this. It was a very similar situation, but we're resilient this year. I mean, we are.
I love that. Now, how far is Stetson from you guys? What time do you get back to the facility? Because that was a trip after.
Almost 2 a.m. probably. Almost. Yeah, it was fun. It was a ride.
Feels like that's a memory you're probably going to have for a very long time, though. And the game, of course, itself, but the midnight to whatever bus ride is going to be that's got to be one that sticks.
You're with all your friends the whole night. I mean, it's fun. You just beat a team that not a lot of people thought you could, and now you're just celebrating with your friends. It's awesome. The bus ride, we were just talking to each other, talking about how great we played together as a team. Just not only offense, not only defense, but also special teams too. I mean, we played all 3 sides of the ball.
Ideal Saturday night going out, huh?
That's exactly right.
Sweet, man. It took me too long to get hip to you guys down there, but we definitely will be tuned in the rest of the year, my friend. Excited to see how you guys carry through into conference play here and continue to step up and, like you said, play some complimentary football, brother.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Right.
Trent, that's all I got for you, my man. I appreciate you. Thanks for your
Oh,
time.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Have a good night, brother.
Yeah, you too.
Excuse me. Coming off the back end of that interview now with the quarterback from Weber International as we get things going here on the NAIA side of video, and joining me once again with hair that is luscious as ever, my friend, Matt Schwarzler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, the hair is a bit crazy today. I didn't get the gel in right after the shower, so got a little frizzy. But we're still rocking it today. So I'm doing great, man. We had a fantastic weekend.
It looks epic, dude. It looks epic.
Thanks. Look, if you got the flow, you got to show it off, right?
Yes, you do, man. I'm excited to get you back on here. We had an incredible slate of NAIA football in week 0. It certainly did not disappoint. And the matchups that were supposed to be good lived up to the hype. I think that's the biggest thing that we'll kind of talk about. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about our player of the week selections for the NAIA side of things. And let's start things off with a personal favorite of yours, the man under center for Evangel, Reed Potts. Deadly accurate this weekend. 19 of 22 surgical, 331 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also added a touchdown with his feet for an Evangel team that I know you believe maybe has been snubbed out of a couple of the polls. Hey, talk to me.
Yeah, Reed Potts, definitely a crucial part of this Evangel offense. Talked about it in the preseason with Corey a little bit over at NAIA Football. Reed Potts being the key factor for this offense, and he showed why, when he's playing at his best, this team is nearly unstoppable. I mean, scoring 60-plus points, scoring 4 touchdowns, 331 passing yards, 19 for 22, incredibly accurate. And it's not just a testament to how good he is, but I think how good this Evangel team is. And I have to mention it because I'm getting on my soapbox here because I feel like I have to talk about how good this Evangel team is and how nobody's talking about them. They weren't in the preseason top 25 for the NAIA, like their official poll. And granted, we're still waiting another week for that one to come out because they don't put another one out until week 2. But I've been super high on this team. This team was in my preseason top 20. They ended last year SP plus 21st overall, outside looking in on a playoff spot. They returned pretty much all of their key contributors from last year, and nobody is talking about them. And in the KCAC, on their side of the division, in the Bissell, they have a really good shot to just win that side of the conference outright. And while teams across the conference are slugging it out on the other side, you've got to feel pretty good about where you're at. And I need more people to be talking about Evangel because I feel like this team is going to surge. They're going to keep winning. Truthfully, I think they're a top 15 team in the country right now, at the very least. And they're just, not only is their offense super good, their defense is incredibly stout. You don't almost get to the playoff last year with the season they had going 8-2 without those pieces in place. And it's almost, it's not the exact same roster, but it's pretty damn close. This is a team to be keeping your eyes on, and they need their respect. I'll be completely honest with you. I think they proved that this weekend. So, shout out to Reed Potts having an incredible weekend. But yeah, let's get some more eyes on this program in general. I think Evangel is going to be really fun to watch, and I think the Valor are going to get some really good stuff done this year.
100%. We'll keep things rolling here with the Defensive Player of the Week selection. Ethan Freeland from Georgetown. 14 tackles. He had a fumble recovery, an interception, and a PBU all in the same game. The dude's filled up the stat book there for the Tigers of Georgetown. And then finally with our Special Teams Player of the Week selection, this one again, absolute no-brainer. Levi Torgerson from Montana Tech. He took not 1, but 2 returns to the house. Now, one of them was a kick return. One was a punt return. He had 5 punt returns in the day, over 200 yards in the aggregate, and 2 touchdowns for him. And we're going to talk about that game a lot. He was a big reason why Montana Tech, the boys up there from Butte, they come home with a victory over frontier rival Montana Western. But before we get talking about that game, I want to talk about this Benedictine game, right? Benedictine, they take down Morningside 38-34 in a clash of 2 top 5 programs. And again, I kind of said it earlier, a lot of times these matchups maybe just don't live up to the billing, right? There was a lot of excitement going into this one, and there certainly was a lot of excitement coming out of it, which is awesome to see. You look here at the video, the score that did it for Benedictine. Jackson Dooley He's a dude. That's the guy coming up from the pile right here, giving a little flex. Shoulder pads are sticking out of the uniform. Not typically his MO. Usually he's more like this, dropping back and dealing across the middle of the field into the end zone. Courtesy video there of Victory Sports Network. Shout out to Jason and the crew over there. But Dooley in this one, Matt, 20 of 37, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns passing. He's a grinder. That run shows it. That is a grinder of a touchdown run. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Speak softly." Join the show tonight, the quarterback. And to me, that is exactly what Jackson Dooley is. That encapsulates this guy, and a hit stick, I guess, in this case, my friend, if we're getting technical. But the question for you is, I guess, kind of moving forward as we talk about these top caliber teams, how big is the gap in the NAIA? We know the teams at the top right now. We haven't seen Grandview this year. We know they're going to be just fine. We've seen what Benedictine has to offer. We're going to talk about Kaiser in a little bit. We know that teams 1 through 8, 1 through 10, the level of play that they're at. How big is the gap, in your opinion, from the top 5 to 15 plus? To me, after watching some of these games, you could kind of make arguments for both. I might say the gap's bigger than usual. Maybe less parity in 2025.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that line of thought. It feels like the middle of
this
the
is where we
pack
go
is
Skip and
rising
Shannon here
as we continue. Yeah, it feels like the middle of the pack in the NAIA overall is rising. Now the question is, truthfully, where do you pin the end of the middle of the pack? Because once you push that top 15, you're kind of getting out of that range. But it's hard, especially at this point in the year, to argue against the fact that, like, I would take a Campbellsville right now to put up a good matchup against some of these top 10, maybe top 5 teams. I really don't think the gap is that far, but truthfully, it's hard to tell this early in the season. I just think as we go along and we have conferences like the Frontier that eat each other alive, the GPAC with maybe a surging Northwestern team after a big win for them this weekend, and Morningside looking human. Benedictine, with the way that they played defense, kind of showed other teams how you can beat Morningside. Now, granted, Morningside's still very good. A lot of things have to go well in your favor to pull that off. But, you know, the blueprint's there for these other teams. And I'd be curious to see, you know, how some of these top 15 squads would hold up against them. I think the gap is actually a lot closer than we might have seen from this weekend. But I will admit, the top teams did look really, really, really good. So I'm not going to like fully refute your side of the argument. But I think truthfully, there's a point to be made that like the parity and the bar, the average, the median overall is rising. And I think that means that these top 15 teams are going to start to pick away at these top 5, top 10 squads.
Yeah, Montana Tech, we'll talk about them in a little bit. They're the best case for that right now after that game over Western. And you talk about a Campbellsville team that you look at the preseason rankings, they come in at number 20. Big-time victory over that St. Francis squad out of Indiana that was slated at the 24 spot. Now we get to see them prove themselves again, right? I know Weber International probably not going to be cracking any rankings here anytime soon, but that's a team that maybe should be a part of that conversation. They're obviously in a loaded Sun Conference. They get that Campbellsville Tigers squad this week. Should be another good measuring stick for both squads, right? Especially maybe hard to weigh that Stetson game. We'll talk maybe about a little bit more about later, but enough of that. Let's talk about another one of those top caliber teams, that being Kaiser. They take down number 6, Indiana Wesleyan. 2 of the big time heavyweights beating up on each other. 38-31 on the road. Kaiser comes away with what really could be like a program defining victory for this, what really is still a young program. And the question I have for you, looking at the box score and watching a little bit of the highlights of this one, can this Kaiser backfield pick up right where they left off with Jaden Miller? Perhaps be even better when they lost a ton of talent last year, Meisinger, Burnett, both guys that left out of this backfield a year ago. Could this Kaiser backfield in 2025 be even better?
I think so, especially with a 1-game sample size from what we have. Jaden Miller looked absolutely incredible in this game. And going 38-31 in the victory where, you know, Shea Spencer has a pretty productive passing day, but still turns the ball over a couple times. You're still able to get it done on the ground and grinding it out in a way that I wasn't honestly expecting this Kaiser team to be able to do. Now, granted, Kaiser, the caliber of where the rosters were going to be at and all the analytical side of things, you know, kind of a slight comment from some of the Kaiser saying they deserve the benefit of doubt. With the way they played, I got to tip my cap to that. Jaden Miller, I think, has put them in a fantastic position to where you're not quite expecting that sort of production from him. Like you might have, you know, Burnett in the past or Meisinger even before that. So maybe it's just a matter of the namesake not being quite known yet for them. Now, granted, you have the film on them now. It's very obvious that Jaden Miller is extremely talented. So how can they roll from here? But I think this team has the capability to keep proving people wrong, myself included. Like, I'm happy to eat crow on that one. But they looked really good, and Jaden Miller might just be the running back, one of the best running backs in the entire country. Early overreaction, but
I like that.
I truly believe it from the way he played this weekend.
Yes, and that was his first start in his time at Kaiser, and I flashed the graphic up there a few times. But the rushing touchdown record, he tied it for rushing touchdowns in a game as his fourth touchdown was the go-ahead score, 70-yarder late in the fourth quarter. That's a big-time deal right there. The Seahawks now, Matt, they also improved to 23-8 all-time versus ranked opponents.
Cool. I mean, how do you even prepare against that? Like, I feel like you have to be afraid if you're ranked ahead of these guys.
That is crazy.
That's absurd. I mean, Nick Saban probably can't even hold the candle to something like that. That's crazy.
You know what? That's a great question. We might need the side-by-side. That might be the next. Pull the graphic. Pull it up. Nope. Okay. We don't have that one loaded. All right.
Buzz got it. Tell Buzz to load it up.
That will be one that we need to check in on, though, because that'd be a really good point. But we'll keep things moving here. This one, much more so of an upset. And a team that I and a lot of people have been high on coming into this year is Texas Wesleyan. And they did not fare very well this weekend, Matt. They're upset by unranked Lindsey Wilson, not by one score or two scores, 45-10. Lindsey Wilson puts away the Rams and Texas Wesleyan. And was the defensive performance from LWU the most impressive in all of week 0? In my mind, absolutely. And I really don't even know if it's close. Texas Wesleyan, they had everyone's vote to win the SAC. They had technically one vote went to another team, but if you know how the coaches' polls work, they can't vote for their own team, so technicalities. They've been incredibly highly touted this offseason for good reason. You limit a great talent at quarterback for Texas Wesleyan like Carson Rogers, who's very impressive. We had him on the show. Great human, can absolutely sling it. Didn't really have his A game this weekend. They held him to 10 points, only recovering one fumble. That was the only turnover technically generated by this Lindsey Wilson defense. And the LWU offense threw 2 interceptions. Defense bails them out, still holds Texas Wesleyan to 10 points. This is a team that, we're talking about the changing of the NAIA championship site, that it's at the home field of Texas Wesleyan. We're talking about, man, imagine hosting the championship game at your home field. And here we have it, man. Week 0, they do not come out unscathed. And certainly a quality opponent. Lindsey Wilson defense limited Texas Wesleyan to just 29 rushing yards on 26 carries, Matt. Oh, my goodness.
It was just an absolutely unfathomable showing from Lindsey Wilson this weekend. They were kind of on my sleeper watch as a team that was going to be very good and get back to, where they were in 2020 with Cameron Dukes, where they're winning national titles. I wasn't quite expecting this result. I'll be completely honest with you.
Welcome to the club.
Texas Wesleyan looked incredibly human, and in a way that I can't really describe. Lindsey Wilson just dominated from whistle to whistle. And truthfully, like a team that was, eyeing like a top 35 spot from a lot of people at the beginning of the season, they're skyrocketing. Like they're a top 15 team after that performance. I can't call it any other way because of how well they played it. Now, granted, for Texas Wesleyan, like you said, Carson Rogers is very talented. Their offense is really good. There's still very easily a path for them to get back on track when the Sooner, get the playoff and host the national championship potentially on their home field. But after a result like that, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board in a few aspects. It certainly wasn't the Texas Wesleyan of last year that we were used to seeing, who was kind of having their way with everybody. Lindsey Wilson punched him in the mouth, and I just don't think Texas Wesleyan was super ready for that, and it showed. Lindsey Wilson's defense is back to being elite. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how this Lindsey Wilson team going forward matches up against, teams like Georgetown, teams like Campbellsville. Really curious to see how they do against Bethel of Tennessee this year.
Agreed.
Especially after performances like that on defense. I'm really excited to see how this shakes out, and it only makes the Mid-South that much harder to predict. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. And we had Coach Kleckler on the show, and we talked a lot about the offense, right? Because what kind of spurred the conversation was Sanders, their running back, not being a part of maybe our top running backs to watch. And we should have said more about the defense. That tells you all you need to know about the complementary style of ball being played down there. And Matt, I'll tell you this, and Lindsey Wilson College, They had a good football program over there. This Lindsey Wilson University squad, they might just be generational. They might just be great. I don't know what changing the C to the U does down there for the Blue Raiders, but it definitely got something going here.
Look, you get those graduate programs in, and it just starts rolling. I don't know how else to explain it. I think we'd also be reminiscent, for as much as we talk about this defense, we have to mention Kia Sherrard at receiver for Lindsey Wilson.
Absolutely.
5 catches for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. This guy was in the end zone 3/5 of the time he touched the ball over the weekend. That is insane. And we've talked about Lindsey Wilson in the past with their defense being so good. If you can get the offense to click, like when Dukes would do it with their receiver core back then, you see it now with Pryor Lamb just hucking it up to Sherrod and him going and getting it and coming down with a touchdown more times than not. I mean, you are set up for success. And that's exactly why this game got out of control for Texas Wesleyan. They were so prepared, to play a stout defensive game that they kind of forgot that offense is important too to defend against. So yeah, have to definitely give a shout there, because that's just
if it wasn't for Potts, that would have definitely gotten our nod. I mean, that's wild.
Mm-hmm. He was our nod on the NAIA Football side of things. So
yep, well deserved too. I can see that going either way.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that a lot. Now let's go over. We alluded to it a lot earlier in the Frontier. Montana Tech, they go and they stun Montana Western 38-27, and Levi was a big part of that in the return game. Really spurred it, was kind of the catalyst for all 3 phases of the game for Montana Tech. Now the question for you though, Montana Tech, are they the clear favorite in the Frontier? Again, this is Overreaction Monday. This is 1 week of actual games. Go.
They have to be. Mostly because I'm bitter that my national champion pick lost on the first week of the season. I did have Montana Western winning the national title. Like I said, still plenty of time to go with the way the playoffs are structured. Montana Western probably still gets in rather easily.
Sure.
At this point. But my goodness, first of all, if I have to go play in Butte, I'm forfeiting. That's just ridiculous. But second off, the way that they dominated the first half of this game was something I was not prepared to see at all. I was watching it on and off throughout the day and just checking in. It was like a punch to the gut every single time I saw that score go up, because not only am I wrong, but wow, I'm really wrong. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But when you have such an efficient output on every aspect of the game, the way that Montana Tech does, it's hard to imagine many other teams being able to top them. Montana Western, on paper, is probably the best shot at it. Now, granted, they do team this coming weekend, so we're going to learn some more about the diggers, the ore diggers in Butte there. But man, it is scary hours if you're in the Frontier and you got to face the green and orange. You know what I mean? So yeah.
100%, man. I didn't get to tune into much of it. And like you said, they got punched in the mouth, and they did try and stage a little bit of a comeback there. They had a couple, big plays that tried to scrap into it. It's not like that Western team, the Bulldogs, just rolled over necessarily. Bulldogs, I have one of them. They don't roll over, especially not when asked. They're stubborn as shit. This team, very much in that same category. They're not just going to roll over. Still got a lot of ball left. But our job tonight is not to say that. We're talking about all the overreactions and all the big things going on. Let's continue the conversation. Other scores from around the nation in NAIA. Let's start things off. We talked about it earlier on. Campbellsville. They go on the road. They outlast St. Francis, Indiana, 31-28 in a close one. And I just realized the graphic, the score is wrong. I apologize. It was 31-28. And 3 big turnovers from that Tigers defense. That was the difference. 3 turnovers in a 3-point game. Again, it's not 45-21. I'm sorry. I messed the graphic up. It was 31-28. That was the difference for the Tigers. We'll see them match up against the next team we're talking about, Weber International. They go down to FCS Stetson. Talked with Trent earlier on, the quarterback on the road. After a lightning delay and every other delay, they come out on top, 31-21. They get back on campus at what did he say, 2 a.m.? Something ridiculous, Matt. It was probably a long night for the boys, but a fun one at that. And to keep things going, Dickinson State 30-15 over Valley City State. Blue Hawks defense posts a shutout in the second half. You had Olivet Nazarene holding on in overtime over Taylor 48-42 and what was really a shootout. Reinhardt beats Florida Memorial 49-35, overcoming 2 interceptions from their offense. And Georgetown College defense, they shine in the 34-17 win over a U-Pike team and an offense over there that we've seen put up some pretty generational numbers. Anything jump out from this slate?
Yeah, Weber, obviously the biggest one, beating an FCS team. Now, granted,
sure,
it's a Pioneer League team, but like that's still a Division I program. Like fact of the matter, fact of the matter, that's a Division I program that you're taking down. And Weber, a team that, you know, isn't getting top 25 votes, is still kind of on the cusp, even after a big win like that. You alluded to it earlier in the fact that we don't really have a gauge for how good Stetson is. So like the verdict's still out.
Yes.
But this Campbellsville matchup is going to tell us a lot about how good and competitive Weber actually is. This is another team that brought back a lot of guys. They feel like they are surging at the right time. And after a big win like that, you have to keep the momentum rolling. And I think they will. Another one to mention, like you said, with Campbellsville earlier, outlasting St. Francis, John Kolka, one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NAIA, operating at a bit lower of a clip than he probably would have liked.
Yeah, we had him as a part of our perfect or ultimate NAIA QB just recently. Again, a lot of ball left, but not the usual. Not the usual from him on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's still to say that St. Francis is a very good football team that will be in and out of the top 25 all year. It's a big win for Campbellsville to have under their belt before they go through that Mid-South gauntlet. And on top of that, too, looking down the list here at Olivet Nazarene versus Taylor, a team that I had pretty solidly billed as second on their side of the conference this year and possibly to take down Indiana Wesleyan. But Olivet Nazarene looks like they're backing up the talk with the way they performed against Taylor, coming back in that game. Not to mention they were down at one point, and being able to fight through that. Absolutely getting it done. Super impressive. Reinhardt looked really good. Florida Memorial also looked really good in a weird way. Like it was a high scoring affair. Florida Memorial, a team that we've talked about being able to take that next step, kind of in the same boat that Weber's in when we talk about them, had a pretty decent showing. And like you said, Georgetown College, their defense absolutely shined, but it was also reflected with a pass game that was super efficient, which I think is something that was consistently lacking for them last year, so might be something to note there.
I like that. Now, go ahead. Let's get right to it, man. Tell me about your favorite win of this weekend. He missed it, and the goalpost is just wobbling. Talk to me about your D-dub.
If I told you the team was 70 total yards of offense won, would you believe me?
I don't know what you say to that. 70 yards of offense, you think, man, that must be a tough trip, a tough little walk or bus ride back to the locker room in the facility.
Nope. Because we played Tiger defense, baby. An absolute blast of a game to be at and work, obviously, as the SID there. I have to be there, which I'm certainly not complaining about. But being able to operate on special teams like Dakota Wesleyan did in that game, returning the 95-yard touchdown, with it being one of the 2 touchdowns you score in that game is absolutely crucial for you in winning that, and your defense bending but not breaking when they absolutely needed to, not allowing a touchdown on that final drive, and setting up Dakota State on the 1-yard line to kick a game-winning field goal that you ultimately get enough pressure on the kicker to where that angle's awkward enough. Doinks right off the left upright. Definitely not a game that you sleep well after if you're on Dakota State for sure. But an absolute thriller and lived up to the rivalry trophy, the rivalry billing. Absolutely thrilling contest. I was super impressed, specifically on the defensive side. Joe Van Overshield for the Tigers had 15 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss. Absolutely dominant in the middle of the field there for them. And when you're able to get it done in that fashion, when your offense isn't producing like you'd like it to, you're still going to take that as a positive because you're still able to pull out wins when you're not at 100%. And the Tigers obviously will have a big test this coming weekend as they travel down to Dordt, who's a top 25 team, who's extremely good. There you go. So they're definitely, the offense is definitely going to have to turn around and be able to click to keep up with them. But yeah, it was super fun to be at. Great atmosphere. Tigers absolutely played their heart out, got it done. Blackout theme, I think, helped them. Everybody was really into it.
Trophy's incredible, by the way. That trophy's sick. Dude, it's massive.
Yep. If I told you where they brought that trophy after the game, I would be in trouble. So I'm going to refrain from commenting on that further. But just know that trophy definitely gets put to use. So it's beautiful and functional, many are saying.
Yeah. Eating cereal out of it, right?
Totally.
That's what you got to do, brother. That's what you got to do out of the big ones. Little honey bunches, little cinnamon toast crunch. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm a cinnamon toast crunch guy, but
okay.
I don't know. Out here in the Midwest, maybe it's cornflakes. That would make sense.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can get behind it. I think
also something we need to mention too, looking ahead a little bit.
Yes.
Top 4 NAIA matchup, top 2 NAIA FBall media poll matchup between Grandview and Benedictine next week. That is going to be prime billing, potentially a playoff preview. Jackson wearing the returning player of the year, confirmed to be starting at quarterback for the top ranked Vikings. Oh man. This is going to be a brawl in every sense of the word. It's going to be a top end QB battle. This might be regular season game of the year, which is hilarious to say considering Benedictine versus Morningside literally just happened. But there's a very realistic chance that that's the case. That's really what we're looking at here.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. Obviously, we got the game day show on Saturday that we just announced. We get to preview a lot of that. So excited for that. But that kind of wraps up the conversation tonight. Matt, my friend, I appreciate you very much, dude. Thank you for coming on. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course.
Thank you very much. And for those of you who have stuck around with us, I appreciate it so much. I've been Kobe Manzo. This is D1 Rejects. Be sure to drop a comment, like, whatever it is, if you're watching on YouTube here. We're excited to do a lot more of these live shows, especially getting on campus, meeting you guys and being around the actual product that is being played. This is going to be a really fun season. I think we took a really good step in the right direction. So with that being said, thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and have a good rest of your evening.